Hello and welcome, I'm Sam from Rising Audio, and this is the first in a set of tutorials on Logic Pro. As I said, it's the first one, so we're going to be going literally over the basic layout, a bit of a guided tour around this particular DAW. If you're a bit more advanced and you already know a bit about Logic, perhaps you want to skip on to one of the later tutorials. But we're going to start from the beginning. So loading up Logic, if you've got it installed correctly, you should have an icon on your dock at the bottom here. As you can see, I'm using Logic Pro 8. If you have a different version, don't worry too much. They're all laid out in a fairly similar way. I'll be hoping to get Logic 9 as soon as possible, as I heard it has some very nice features. So here we go. When you first load it up, you'll be presented with a window that looks like this. This just gives you the option of choosing some preset arrangements that Logic thinks might be useful for you when you're starting out. Maybe you want to compose a hip-hop track or R&B track, rock, whatever. If I choose hip-hop, it will give me a list of tracks set up with the instruments it thinks I want to use, and all the effects already added. That's very useful if you're just starting out and you just want to play with it. You can give that a try. Today I'm going to start with the empty project. I always prefer to start with a blank canvas when I'm writing my music. I don't want to be influenced by anything else. So the next screen you'll get is this one. It allows you to choose your tracks. Pretty obvious, but it does give you three options. Now, audio is for recording in audio from a microphone or external source, such as your guitar or any external instrument. Or you can import pre-recorded tracks. So if you've got a microphone with a little recorder you take around recording samples, maybe you can import onto your audio track and then edit it there. We're not going to do that today. The next one is software instrument. That is the one we're going to use, so I'll come back to that. External instrument, or external MIDI, sorry, is if you have an external MIDI device, such as a synthesizer, a sound module, an external MIDI keyboard with sounds that you want to use, and it allows Logic to play the sounds within that external MIDI device, not the other way around. So this isn't about your MIDI keyboard. We'll come back to that again at another later tutorial. So software instruments are, as they sound, they're software instruments that are built into Logic, or you can use VST instruments to plug into Logic, and they're like synthesizers or samplers that are already on your computer, so to speak. Now, as you can see, I only added one track, but I'm probably going to want to use more than one track for my recording. Wouldn't get a very interesting song with just one track, so let's add a few more. To do that, we just click on this plus sign here, and again we get presented with the same window. So I'm going to create maybe three more. And there we go. They've laid down on the left here. Now, this whole window is called your arrange window. This is what Logic uses, or Apple uses, to call the arrangement area of Logic. And it's where obviously you arrange all your music, your tracks, and everything happens here. This is your base. It's like your desktop area. So let me just give you a bit of a guided tour around this arrange window. Along the bottom is your transport bar, and you can actually take this off. If you go to Window, Transport, you can have another little transport bar that you can drag around and resize and do what you want with. And this is where basically you have all your controls. You have your stop button, your play button, your pause button, your record button, very important buttons. Along here we have our time. This is time in seconds, and underneath is the beats and the bars of the position of this bar here. Now this is the bar that moves along. If I press play, as you can see, it moves from left to right, and you can see the numbers at the top here is like a timeline. These are the beats and the bars of your music. If you don't know a bit about music theory, it would be a good idea for you to brush up, because you'll find it will hold you back when we talk about some of the terms, and musical theory is obviously important if you're going to start composing. I will write up an article about music theory and put some guides on my website, so keep an eye out there on Rising Audio. This one here is your beats per minute. So at the moment it's on 120 beats every minute. We can change that by clicking on it and dragging up and down, or we can literally write. So maybe I want to set this one a nice slower kind of track on 90 beats per minute. And to the right we have the time signature. Now this one's in 4/4. Again, you need to know a bit about music theory to understand this, but it basically means 4 beats every bar. And if we go to the top here, we can see our bars, number 1, number 2. In between we have 4 beats. If I change this to 6/8, for example, yep, if I can get there, over here, it's actually changed it at the locator, you'll see, so you can have it in 4/4, and then later on it can be 6/8, which could be confusing, but you'll see if we zoom in, I'll just quickly show you how you can zoom in by using this here. We can see that we have 6 beats in every bar now. So I'm going to set that back to 4/4. There we go. And zoom out a bit. Back to normal. Okay. Now, along here is your ins and outs. This is to do with MIDI. It's very important in the DAW. Everything is to do or based around MIDI. I've got a MIDI keyboard plugged in, so I'm going to press a key on the keyboard and we should see some signals. Yep, it tells me that I'm pressing D3 and I hit it with a velocity of 117. Hit it a bit lighter, velocity of 66. We'll come back to that. If you don't know much about MIDI, again, it would be useful for you to understand a bit about it. You can read our article on MIDI on Rising Audio. Now, let's try and create some music. So I'm going to select track 1. I'm just going to use the arrange bar at the bottom. And we want to add a sound. Obviously, at the moment, if we press play, nothing happens. Obviously, we haven't done anything yet. So I want to create a 1-bar loop. So I'm going to select 1 bar by highlighting at the top. Now if I press play, it will loop around 1 bar, just 4 beats. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, nothing happening much. So what I'm going to do is use the pencil tool. Now up here are some little tools. This is how it shows what happens if you left click, and I usually leave this one on the pointer, and on the right one is what happens if you hit command or press command and click. So I can use the pencil tool. So as you can see, as I press command, it changes to the pencil tool, and now I can draw in a box. Now we're going to put our events, our MIDI events or our music into that. We can do it in multiple different ways. We can do it with a score. If you're well into your musical score and you understand that, you can use the notes from here and actually compose it that way. Or we can play in the keyboard, press record and play in on the keyboard. Or we can use the piano roll. But at the moment, if we press keys on the piano, nothing happens because we haven't set up an instrument. So I'm going to show you how to do that quickly and then we'll end this tutorial. On the left, we have your main, this one here, 2 channels. This is your master channel. This is like a channel on a mixing desk. This is the master fader. So if whatever you set this at will be the volume or the overall volume of all your tracks put together. I'm going to set this quite low, so I just happen to know it's quite loud when we're recording on this software. I'll put it down to 35, minus 35. And this is the fader for the actual track that's selected. As you can see, it moves. Ooh, I don't want to do that. So I'm going to set that, just leave that about 0. And I'm going to add a track. Now, you can add inserts, send, won't go into that for now, but where it says I/O, stands for in and out. If we click that, we are presented with a list of all the virtual instruments or software instruments that are built into Logic. And if you go down further, we have some extra ones that you can add in, like VSTs. But I'm going to use the ES1. It's the basic bog standard subtractor synthesizer that comes with Logic. As you can see, it looks very flashy. And we can change the controls. We can choose from a list of preset sounds that it's got built into it. And this is a nice subtractor synthesizer, so we're going to use that. If I hit a key now, hear sound. And what we can do is use our pencil tool again by holding the command key and literally drawing them in. And if we press play now, it will loop over what we've done. As you can see, it sounds very beautiful because I put a lot of thought into this. Now I think that's enough for this tutorial. Have a go at it yourself, see if you can make some music, and join me again in the next tutorial for some more in-depth and advanced stuff. And don't forget to check the website risingaudio.com for news and updates and for more articles. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.